Welcome to We Have Ways of Making You Talk, Luftschlacht England, Episode 3, Attack of the Eagles of our Battle of Britain series.
We left the first episode where we were going through kind of the events of Battle of Britain with Phase 1, just tickling into the beginning of August. And while all this has been going on, plans have been going ahead for Operation Sea Lion,
yes,
which, as we know, now has a name. What they're discovering is any number of stumbling blocks. So Conter Admiral Fricker, he's the guy who's been given sort of operational command for Sea Lion, is only seeing endless difficulties. There's no landing craft of any kind. Navy, which is only 15% the size of the Royal Navy.
I'd say that's the problem.
A big problem. There's also no coordination whatsoever between the services. So the army wants to land at dawn, which means crossing by night, which also means endless mines.
Yeah.
And the tide it has to just go out, so the barges can run easily onto the beach. That means you're quite limited to when you can do it.
Yeah.
Fricker reckons he needs a minimum of 6 weeks to get the shipping together, which will be mostly Rhine River barges.
Yes, which will gum up German trade after all.
Yeah, and he warns that taking 1,000 barges and 24,000 men from the German shipping industry will have a massive detrimental effect on the German military and civilian economies, of course, and not least that great waterway, the Rhine.
Yeah.
Domestic water transport will all but cease, all of which is put in front of Hitler at the Führer conference on the 31st of July. And Fricker also suggests landing on a much, much shorter front than that put forward by the army, because the army wants a very wide front. And Hitler does what he quite often does when he doesn't know what to do. He just divers.
I mean, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because I think people's sort of impression of Hitler might be that he would chew the carpet at this point and say, "Don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions." Whereas in fact he goes, I don't know, we'll have to think about this then. Because he doesn't know what to do, because he didn't expect to be in this situation.
But he still insists planning goes ahead without giving Fricker an answer.
Yeah.
Well, just get on with it.
Yeah. So
Fricker goes in and presents all this and says, this is a problem, it's going to have a massive detrimental effect on shipping. We can't agree with the army, we want to be on a narrow front because we've got to clear mines and all the rest of it. He goes, okay. Then von Braukitsch and Halder come in, and he says, just prepare for a broad front.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Have you not been listening to a word, mein Führer?
Well, no, he doesn't, does he, though? No.
Changes his mind a lot.
Yeah. But it's also what he's doing there is the army come to him. Hitler does often have, in these organisational situations, have a tendency to agree with the last person he spoke to.
Yeah. Reminds me of another world leader.
Well, maybe. Plenty of people in this situation, because after all, he's not where he expected he'd be at all. And so the following week, the 7th of August, there's another conference, and it's clear that there are real big differences emerging between the army and the navy, bigger differences even. The Kriegsmarine want to land between Beachy Head and Folkestone, and the army saying, no, it's not big enough. I mean, it may be what you've got actually here is two organisations think there's no way we can ever pull this off. So what we're going to do
is do our own thing.
Well, no, whatever they suggest, we'll say no to. Whatever we suggest, they'll say no to. So we'll never have to do it.
I don't sense that is the case, but it's quite interesting to think about it.
Well, yeah, they all know it's impossible.
Well, and again, on the 7th of August, it's not resolved at all.
No.
So separate plans just continue. Okay, well, let's just go off and do our own thing anyway. Yeah. So Kriegsmarine are still absolutely terrified about mines. The problem they have is they have to clear channels through the minefields to protect the flanks. But as soon as they're swept, then the Brits just lay a whole load more again.
Yeah.
Royal Navy can lay 300 mines in a night.
Yeah. And if you look forward to the D-Day invasion in June of 1944, the anti-mine effort that the Royal Navy puts in the night before.
Well, it's done the same night.
Yeah.
It's done just ahead of the invasion fleet.
In order to get it done, because they're just going to lay some more. This is the other thing is you can't improvise this stuff.
So meanwhile, the Luftwaffe is getting ready.
Yeah.
They're tweaking tactics quite a bit. So fighters are now subordinated to new formations called Jagdfliegerführer, or JAFU for short. And they're pressing for free hunts. And this is where they just take off, stooge around, just shoot at whatever they can.
Yeah.
And that means that they can fly the altitude they want, speed they want, and they're finally given permission. And one person who's exceptionally keen on this is Adolf Galland in JG 52.
Yeah.
The yellow-nosed monsters. He's very keen on this.
Let's face it, the reason Galland likes this idea is because he's an expert and it means he's going to get to shoot down loads of Americans and Spitfires.
On his own terms.
On his own terms. This is a decision that pleases people who've got the wrong idea about how to go about things. So then on the Thursday, the 1st of August, there is a Führer Directive for an air war against Britain. So it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
The German Air Force is to overpower the English Air Force with all the forces at its command in the shortest possible time. And it's to start in 4 days, on or after the 5th of August. Yeah, they're still attacking coastal convoys. And again, trying to get the RAF, the fighter command, to come fight them. But by the 5th of August, I mean, they're jumping to it, though. By the 5th of August, all the 3 air fleets are ready. Luftwaffe 2 in northern France.
Yeah, that's the biggest. It's the biggest, and that's Kesselring.
Yeah. Luftwaffe 3 in Normandy, in the Channel Islands.
Yeah, and then Luftwaffe 5 in Norway.
Yeah. But there's no agreed plan of action.
None at all.
It's kind of, I mean, you know, and again, you know, in the last episode, I said, thank goodness the Germans are bad at radio and are disorganised. Thank goodness there's no agreed plan of action. Although, as the battle progresses, the Germans sort of switch emphasis and change. They haven't got the means to deliver on any of the objectives that they pick and choose as they move forward. So Goering is dithering and Hitler is dithering. So Goering's waiting to be given the green light from Hitler because the British haven't sued for peace as expected. Hitler then doesn't do that. Give Goering any idea of what he wants until the 31st of July. So Goering is getting his people, his commanders, to come up with what they think they should do.
Yeah. So what do you think? So he's got his 3 Luftwaffe commanders. He's got Kesselring in 2. He's got Spurler in 3 and Stumpf in 5 up in Norway. Yes, okay. Well, come up with a plan then. They'll submit completely different plans.
And there aren't final plans until the 6th of August. So although they're on readiness on the 5th, there is no plan that they're on readiness for.
No, and Beppo Schmidt is doing his updated intelligence briefings, which are obviously absolutely on the money.
Yeah.
So he thinks the RAF have only got 500 fighters left.
I'm glad to see that Beppo Schmidt likes the Defiant, though, because fans of the Defiant, we've got to stick together. First of all, you've got all 3 Luftwaffe coming up with different plans. There is no strategy, no grand plan, and their current information, which is based on their previous understanding, is all wrong.
Well, they're shooting down twice as many as are being built.
Yeah. The final conference is on the 6th of August at Karenhal, and they decide on the Adler Angriff, the attack of the Eagles. And the priority, I mean, they get this right. The priority is to attack what they see as the DT masks, knock out the radar, the RDF, and then proceed.
Yeah.
But good weather, clear skies in Northwest Europe. You can't bet on it, so you can't plan on it. This is exactly the problem they run into. They also don't have any weather information about England. There's nothing. They've got no source of information at all about what the weather might be doing on the other side of the channel.
They haven't got weather ships on the Azores.
Exactly. No, exactly. Right.
Looks a bit dodgy, but their weather reporters suggest that there's going to be high pressure on the way from the 10th of August. So Goering goes, great. Well, you know, we'll do that. He reckons that the destruction of the RAF is going to take 3 days, but just to be on the safe side, I'll give himself 4. So 4 days of clear weather, and Adler Tag will begin sometime from the 10th of August.
I mean, Goering's glass is always half full, right?
Well, it depends on where, it depends on his state of mind, because, that's the problem with drug taking, is that, you have moments of being very high and moments of being very down in the dumps. And meanwhile, the fighter pilots have been gathering, in Normandy and the Pas-de-Calais. So, they're gathering of the Eagles.
And so on the 11th, Steinhilper flies 4 sorties in a single day.
It's a lot.
Yeah, shoots down a Blenheim bomber, which of course is a reminder that Bomber Commander...
they're coming over every day.
They're coming over regularly and involved in all of this.
Yeah, although in this case, the Blenheim was trying to attack a Heinkel 59 rescue seaplane.
Right.
Which the Germans all thought was very terrifically bad form. Just got to rescue it. Can't possibly do that. But Dowding thinks, no. Red Cross doesn't count for anything. These guys are rescuing them so they can then come back and attack us.
Yeah. Dowding is a great example of, actually, the British attitude to the Second World War is entirely ruthless. You can dress it up in sort of keep calm, carry on all you want, but it's about killing the enemy.
Much bigger operations on the 12th of August. This is actually quite a major day of air fighting, and this was mainly directed at RDF masts.
Yep. This is all quite targeted stuff. So they're attacking the stations at Rye, Pevensey and Dunkirk, and really... going for those RDF stations properly.
Well, yeah, and Erpro 210, this is a favourite unit of Goering's because there's just, they're all made up of sort of former test pilots and Spain veterans and all the rest of it. They're kind of like considered a super elite ground attack unit. Ju-88 is bombing Ventnor on the Isle of Wight. And actually, they do knock out Ventnor.
And they also attack Portsmouth Naval Dockyard. That's 63 bombers, so that's a proper effort. I mean, if you're going to attack anywhere in the British military establishment on the south coast, Portsmouth makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
HMS Victory disappears under smoke and dust for the first time since Trafalgar.
And you've got anti-aircraft guns, all the guns firing, but they don't hit any ships. And then they're also attacking airfields. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is what you need to do, is knock out the RDF and knock out the airfields if you're going to achieve air superiority. But there's lots more RDF stations than they've addressed themselves to in this instance.
No, absolutely.
And there's lots more airfields.
But they attack Limp, and Limp gets bombed heavily and rendered unusable for a day. But, this is the point. Despite all this damage, they're grass runways, and they prove pretty robust. And Dowding has already ensured that every airfield is stocked with rubble hardcore and graders and bulldozers and all the rest of it, and steamrollers. They can repair these craters really, really quickly. You shovel them in, get the steamroller over them, and off you go. But
the German estimation is that they have to punch a 93-mile hole in fighter command, create a 93-mile gap. We are not looking at a mile gap here, are we?
No. So Ventnor's knocked out, but it's substituted by a mobile transmitter to make him seem like it hasn't been knocked out. I mean, it's amazing that German reconnaissance mistakenly concludes that, huge amounts of destruction have gone, and, the RAF is already on its knees, but it isn't.
It's so hard to know, though, when you think it, because they've not got a spy satellite sat over Surrey and one over Kent. It's so hard to know. You've got the pilot's individual reports, and I imagine if you're part of that KG-51 attacking Portsmouth, that probably looks like it went pretty well in your rearview mirror. You see the city's on fire, and you think,
you see lots of bombs exploding.
Exactly. So we did it, right? And also, you've been told the British are brittle, weak, ready to collapse, and all that sort of stuff. So no wonder they return going, well, I think that went pretty well. We're on track here. Yeah. Then actually, Eagle Day, Adler Tag. It's the 13th of August.
Yep.
This is it. Luftschlacht England.
Yes, it's the beginning.
However, it gets off to an inauspicious start.
Very much so.
KG-2 are heading for Eastchurch. Their fighter escort doesn't show up, or rather does show up.
Well, it's been cancelled, but it has. But the message hasn't got through to KG-2.
Yeah.
So they take off. So a whole load of ME-110s flying around as well, keep flying and buzzing in front of it, trying to tell them that it's been cancelled, but he just thinks, what are they doing? Yeah. And carries on flying. They're, of course, intercepted by Spitfires and Hurricanes. You see them coming. 5 bombers shot down, a whole load more badly damaged. And they attack Eastchurch, which isn't even a fighter command airfield, but one used by Coastal Command. They report that they shoot up lots of Spitfires, but there aren't any Spitfires there.
No, they're Blenheims or something on the ground, aren't they? Everything that could go wrong with that does go wrong, basically. Kind of Adlertag kind of carries on in this...
It's this haphazard, completely uncoordinated, willy-nilly, lacking any kind of proper direction kind of way. So shortly after midday, 23 ME-110s, the Stollen, fly from Caen, intending to lure RAF fighters away, so that bombers could then arrive unopposed. Of course, it doesn't happen because they get intercepted by 3 Hurricane squadrons. Yeah, and they're forced into defensive circles. They just go round in circles, which is fine until you have to break.
Yeah,
and at some point you do. And by the time the engagement ends, 1's crashed on land, 6 have fallen into the sea, and 7 more were damaged, and only 9 returned intact.
That's a very bad day at the Gestora office, isn't it? And they're meant to be gestoring, not being gestored. Right?
They are very much being gestored by the Hurricanes.
And then, of course, in the afternoon, there's more. Stuka's attack Middle Wallop.
Yep. And this is just really, really weird because if you remember, going back to I think it was the first episode, it's one of those Führer conferences where Goering says, of course, our fighters have to be able to fire at their full capacity and do the thing. You can't have close escorts. That's not going to work at all. But despite those very specific orders, fighters are on a lower level of ordering, told to stick to the bombers. And, why? I mean, it's just absolutely bizarre. It's a Reichsmarshal. He's the world's first 6-star general. He's being ignored.
I know. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually this shows that it's a Befehl culture, supposedly, an orders culture, But actually, lower down, they're going, well, we're not going to do that. And it's basically the Stukas, it's the bombers saying...
well, with precious Stukas.
Well, but also them saying, where are the fighters? Unless we see the fighters, we won't feel we can go out.
Yeah. They're flying 150 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Messerschmitt 109s are almost falling out of the sky.
Yeah. And they run into 609 Squadron.
Yes, whose radio frequency is almost identical. So they can hear what's going on.
They give these Stukas a proper going over.
Oh my God, they have this great day. It's a bit like the Sherwood Rangers at Roray Ridge. There's 13, they shoot down 13 on the 13th of August for no loss of their own.
Well, and what's interesting about this is that they're 10 group, aren't they?
Yeah.
We talked an awful lot about 11 groups so far, and we'll carry on talking about it. But this is actually 10 group doing its job.
Yeah.
Without any whinging or moaning or feeling that they're not in on the action. Because they are very much in on the action.
But both Stuka groups lose around a third of their aircraft, and a whole load more get damaged. Some bomb the wrong airfield, of course.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the day, Adlertag, the day of days, the RAF has lost 15 aircraft and only 4 pilots, but the Luftwaffe has lost 39 planes and 66 aircrew. The RDF stations are all pretty much intact, apart from Ventnor. Airfields are being quickly repaired, and Fighter Command's operational strength was undinted.
It shows that not only is the intelligence bad, but their estimate of how the day has gone is
they think it's gone swimmingly.
Wildly at odds. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the pilots don't know it's Adlertag, though, the Luftwaffe people. They're unaware that this
it's a massive damn squib. That is the bottom line.
After the break, because after all, the RAF fighter plans can be broken in, 3 days, maybe 4? Yeah. So that's day 1. Let's come back for part 2 and find out what happens.
The destruction of fighter plans.
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast in German, after all. We'll see you in a tick. Welcome back to We Have Ways of Making You Talk. Battle of Britain, Episode 3, Luftschlacht England. Yeah. It's going well so far for the Luftwaffe, isn't it, Jim? I mean, if we were reading their intelligence reports right now, it's all going swimmingly. The biggest air battle, though, is the 15th of August.
That is the biggest air battle, but there's a whole load of other stuff that's also going on at the same time, which Britain has to contend with.
Right, and that's a point worth making, after all. Yeah. Is that the Italians are now in the war.
Yep.
Because the Italian squadrons do take part in the Battle of Britain.
Briefly get slaughtered, yeah.
Yeah, they have
over East Anglia.
Extremely rough ride.
Yeah.
The British decide that what they've got to do is actually do something about the Italians in the Med, don't they? I mean,
well, they've got to fight back generally. They're not just fighting back in the skies of southern England. It's about kind of having a wider footprint, showing that they mean business. They've trounced the French fleet at Mers el Kabir.
Yeah,
they've done that. They've got to give the Italians a bloody nose. So that means fighting back in the Mediterranean. The decision is made. A conscious decision is made. Yep, we will keep going there. So Hurricanes are being sent to Malta. That tiny but very important, strategically important island in the middle of the Mediterranean, south of Sicily, as well as a whole load of anti-aircraft guns are sent out there as well. And more importantly, 150 tanks.
This is a really revealing decision, right? If the thing you're worried about more than anything else is invasion of England.
Not sending tanks to the Middle East.
Why on earth would you send tanks to Egypt? Because you're going to be all right. When people talk about the state of play in 1940 and how the invasion fear is this, that and the other, if you want to see some absolute crystal clear appraisal of Britain's situation, it's this decision that tells you everything. And Churchill won't have made this decision by himself, by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
He's only been in the job a couple of months. Mm-hmm. He's relying on the advice he's getting. And it's also not the advice he's getting isn't from the famous people that we know about, like Brooke, the garlanded people who win the war. This is at this stage of the war where for some people, the writing's on the wall. You send 150 tanks when you haven't got any tanks or enough tanks.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
And at the same time, 14th of August, the destroyer deal with the Americans is agreed in principle. And this is very important. This is 50, out-of-date destroyers that the Americans don't want. And this is Churchill's way of hooking in the Americans.
Yeah.
Materially, financially, and hopefully eventually in terms of actual boots on the ground as well. This is a slow drip effect.
It's the breadcrumbs that Churchill's laying. And also he's showing what kind of deal may be on offer with a bigger commitment.
So this means bases in the Bahamas, Caribbean, elsewhere. It means sharing some secrets. RDF is shared, for example.
Yeah.
This gets the disapproval of Joe Kennedy, who's a defeatist and kind of frankly pro-fascist and not a very nice man at all, who was the ambassador to Britain at the time. And Churchill tells Joe Kennedy,
I think the more we get together with you people, the better it will be for the world.
well, amen to that.
Yeah.
And a week earlier, the US have agreed an order for 4,000 tanks.
Oh, that's why you can send 150 tanks to
Well, yeah, but
Egypt.
they don't come overnight.
No, but you know what I mean. I mean, there's a longer term plan in gestation.
But by the middle of August, Dowding is already fretting about pilot shortage. This is going to be his big concern. It's a big concern of Park in 11 Group as well. The OTUs, this is the really big thing, also reduced from 1 month to a fortnight.
That is where I think some people have got the impression that
Yes, that people arriving with only 10
people
hours.
arrive with only 10 hours.
10 hours
10
on
hours
type.
on type, on the Spitfire or the Hurricane or the sweet Defiant. This is, I think, where some people get the impression that fighter commands pilots aren't everything they could be in terms of training. But they've still been through the entire...
They're still arriving at their frontline squadrons.
And they're selected
150 hours.
And they're selected as fighter pilots. So they've been selected
Because they're really good.
because they're really good.
Yeah.
And trained for that purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just, can you fly? Great, get in a Spitfire, have 10 hours and off.
And
you
just
go.
to be clear about this, no one is arriving from an OTU with 10 hours on a Spitfire and then being flung straight into the fray.
No.
That isn't happening. This is the problem, is that because they're so green and wet about the ears, they can't really be used because they're not going to be any use to anyone. They're just going to get shot down, so there's no point using them. But the projected increase means that you've got from 1,632 pilots being processed in June to 2,108 in September. So you might think to yourself, oh, that sounds all right. The problem is there's a huge difference between being a qualified pilot and an experienced battle-hardened fighter pilot.
Also, other people who've come to the party, oh boy.
Yes. And on the 10th of August, at various operational training units, there are 43 French, 114 Czechs, 443 Polish, 28 Belgians.
That's a whole chunk of people, though.
Well, that's, what's that? That's 630.
The Luftwaffe keep up the pressure on the 14th of August.
Yes, I mean, this is really interesting. On the 14th of August, having had their great day operating from Middle Wallop, 69 Squadron then find themselves on the receiving end because a lone Junkers 88 comes over Middle Wallop, causes huge damage, basically destroys one hangar, and kills a whole load of ground crew. But a 609 Squadron Spitfires take off after it, shoot it down, killing everybody.
In that raid, isn't there like a clue to what the Luftwaffe ought to be doing?
Well, yes, except this is a nub, is that when you do this low-level stuff...
It's really difficult.
It's very difficult and it's suicidal.
You could send lone bombers to every single fighter station in England and hit them all. Fighter command would have been overwhelmed by that because there'd been too many targets to pick. There's an opportunity for the Luftwaffe to get that right.
Forecast is looking bad for the 15th, so Goering organises another conference at Cornwall because already it's absolutely clear that this isn't going quite as well as he thought. I mean, clearly, though, even if the weather was bad, this is a total waste of his frontline commander's time.
Yeah.
I mean, they should not be going to Cornwall. No. He needs to come to them, lazy bastard.
And he's upset about his restorers
getting pasted, and also the Stukas.
The Stukas being...
And so he says that what's needed is new, fresh tactics. And from now on, each Stuka group will be close escorted by an entire Geschwader of fighters. So one of the groups will be diving with the Stukas, second will be flying overhead immediately, and the third one will be protecting the entire attack from above. And he also berates the commanders. He goes, I have repeatedly given orders that twin-engine fighters are only to be employed where the range of other fighters is inadequate, or where it is for the purpose of assisting our single-engine aircraft to break off combat. Well, A, he hasn't said that repeatedly. He hasn't said it once. And B, this is contradictory nonsense. I mean, you can't be employed where the range of other fighters is inadequate at the same time assisting single-engine aircraft to break off combat.
Yeah.
You're either doing one or the other.
Yeah.
And he also says there's no point attacking the DT sites anymore. Yeah. Forget the RDF. It is doubtful whether there is any point in continuing attacks on the DT sites in view of the fact that not one of those attacks so far has been put out of action. Which is also bonkers, because clearly that's the key to the whole thing, and one of them has been put out of action.
I mean, it is the key to the whole thing.
But fortunately, he doesn't know that.
He hasn't worked that out.
And on top of that, the weather is actually pretty good that morning. So this is really interesting. So Kessering was obviously at Carenhall, because he's been summoned by the 6-star general, And so Oberst Paul Dijkman, who is Chief of Staff at 2 Fliegerkorps, gives orders for attacks on Hawkinge, Limp and Rochester, East Church and Martlesham Heath. Oberst Lieutenant Herbert Reichoff, Kesselring's operations officer, then tries to contact Kesselring for authorization, but he can't get through because he's in the middle of the meeting with Goering. They just think, oh, well, should we just go ahead anyway?
Yeah. And as a result, they have the Luftwaffe have their
single worst day of the
single day of battle. It was a result because they're facing the Dowding system, not because Kesselring's elsewhere and it's an ill-conceived idea. The whole thing's ill-conceived.
Yeah, and Stumpf up in Luftwaffe 5, he sends over a number of bombers as well to hit the Norwegians. The idea is to swamp southern England. It's very much your idea of attack lots of different targets all at the same time.
Why not?
And they're thinking, well, all the fighter commanders are going to be in the south, so the north is surely going to be unprotected. But the whole point about the way Dowding organises, you have these different commands, and you don't shove all your eggs in one basket. You keep it spread. Instead of attacking 4 airfields in northern England, they only attack 1, which is Driffield. And they do actually hit 10 Whitleys on the ground, but 15 Luftwaffe bombers are shot down in return.
If you understood Britain and its industrial footprint, you'd know that they're going to defend Newcastle. You know,
but they haven't got enough.
I know, but Vickers is.
They're down. We've already shot down most of them.
You'd surely think they're going to have some fighter stations because
but we're the Luftwaffe, the top dogs.
Okay,
we're the daddies. You know, we've conquered Europe.
I don't think I can dumb down hard enough. Jim, I don't think I could quite do it.
Because it's so mad, isn't it?
Because it's too dumb.
So do you remember Walter Rubensdorfer from Pro 210?
Of course
and
I
his
do.
Destroyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's shot down.
Oh.
Because he was flying down too low. 32 Squadron Hurricanes, that's my old mate Pete Brothers and co.
Right.
After an attack on Croydon. He ploughs into a field near Bletchley Farm, near Rotherfield in Sussex. And that's him.
Right, wow.
Churchill has gone to Bentley Priory.
Yeah.
And he's watching, the headquarters of Fighter Command. He's watching the battles unfolding. And afterwards, he's in a car with Hastings Ismay, his military advisor. Ismay tries to make small talk, and Churchill just says,
Don't speak to me. I have never been so moved.
and then 5 minutes later he says,
Never. In the field of human conflict, as so must be known by so many to so few.
Although that indicates he doesn't understand how big the Dowding system is in terms of numbers of people, possibly. But then let's not get hung up on that. The tempo of Luftwaffe operations carries on. They are trying to do the thing.
16th is not much flying because bad weather kicks in.
Yeah.
The weather that they thought they were going to get on bad weather on the 15th actually is 16th.
Then you hang it
17th
with
also is not much of a. It was a little bit, but it's not kind of all out. It's not that all out sort of concentrated 4 days of clear weather that Goering was so dependent on, was so convinced was going to do the job. So Sunday, the 18th of August, becomes known as the hardest day. You know, and this is another biggie. So Beppo Schmidt, sitrep for Situation Report, for those who don't know military parlance, for the 16th of August is quite interesting. He reckons that RF have just got 430 aircraft left, of which only 300 are serviceable. In fact, Fighter Command has 653 good to go. 3 airfields only are out of action, and only 1 airfield, Manston, will be out permanently. A decision is made to
Shut it down.
yeah, don't need it. Martlesham's back in action later that day, and by the evening, 99% of telephone systems working, water and electricity reconnected, craters filled in and rolled. Both sides, it has to be admitted, are wildly overclaiming.
Yeah.
So the Luftwaffe High Command generally believe the bilge that Schmidt is peddling. Dowding remains very, very sceptical, and actually Archibald Sinclair, who is the Liberal Minister for Air, he asked Dowding about the disparity between claims and what they think is reaction. Dowding replies that the truth would soon become apparent. If the Germans' claims are accurate, then they'll be in London in a week. Otherwise, they would not.
Yeah. He's concerned with the thing he can keep tabs on and keep control of.
Yeah.
Rather than whatever. Yeah, whatever. As long as you're shooting them down.
Yeah.
And we aren't running out of pilots, which is the thing he's more worried about than anything else.
Yeah, and it's really important to stress that Adlertag and the Luftschlacht England and the Adlerangriff might have started on the 13th of August as far as Goering's concerned, but most of these fighter pilots have been flying since the 10th of May.
Yeah.
You know, so they're absolutely knackered at an incredibly high level tempo.
Yeah.
You know, and Siegfried Becker, who wrote that amazing diary and who's flying with JG2 from Normandy on the 16th of August, he goes, our conversations now revolve almost solely on the Channel and all that water. It is so terribly disagreeable to us all.
Well, and it is, because the fighter pilots' experience, they all say this once you're out over the channel, and particularly if there's low cloud, the horizon disappears.
Yeah.
It's grey in front of you in all directions. Wherever you look, you orienting yourself, knowing how far you are from where you've been and all that. You tend to be flying on instruments if you're lucky, or with the people around you.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very stressful.
Yeah.
And if you're flying for Normandy as well, I mean, across the Pas-de-Calais is one thing. If you're flying for Normandy, that's a proper distance. The minute you get to England, you're running out of fuel.
Yeah.
Keeping an eye on your fuel dial is going to be the most important thing. If you get too tangled up in combat...
Well, that's the problem. You can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And then you haven't got enough to get back. You can't just sort of go, right, sorry, I've got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you go when that engagement ends.
Yeah.
And you might be trying to fly for your life. And then you've got to try and get back across the channel. Total nightmare.
Yeah.
Horizons merging, all the rest of it. Altitude sickness.
Now, there's one Victoria Cross, isn't there?
The entire Battle of Britain.
Yeah.
16th of August. This is James Nicholson of 249 Squadron, who are operating out of Boscombe Down, which is just north of Salisbury. He's hit by 4 cannon shells. So one hits his canopy, another his reserve fuel tank in front of the instrument panel. That's not good. One hits his foot, another one just sort of hits sort of sundry parts of the cockpit. So he's in a really bad way. But despite being on fire, he dives down on an ME-110 heading towards him and shoots it down. And then he's preparing to bail out, but he can't get out because of the centrifugal forces and all the rest of it. Eventually does get out, floats down, gets shot up the arse by the Home Guard.
Well, at least they've got a gun. I mean, that's your positive.
Yeah.
The Home Guard are armed at this stage of the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. Well, mixed bag, but point taken. Pilot officer Marty King is shot down that day from 249, and he isn't so lucky. He's killed, and he is flying Tom Neal's plane.
But it's not his turn.
It's not his turn, and this is the point about the slate. So this is why you have excess pilots. So not everyone is flying all the time. You have to have 12 airborne at any one time. So 12 people on the slate, 6 per flight. And it might not be your turn. But there is a sense also that by this stage, that the shock of Dunkirk, of the strategic earthquake of the German victory in France and Low Countries, it's sort of worn off. You get used to the new normal. And people are used to now seeing Germans flying over. And you just become kind of acclimatized to it. And there's a sense that the panic is eased. There's this fantastic Daily Express columnist called Hilda Marchant who sort of takes herself off to the south coast, somewhere in Kent, sort of Ramsgate or somewhere, where she's sort of filing her reports from. And she writes, "Calm? Of course! It's just a nuisance," is the headline on her column. And then she writes, "People here, the ordinary little householders and shopkeepers, continue their ordinary little lives with a gesture of supreme indifference." I mean, she's not patronising.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to print that, though, haven't they? Because they can't print Jesus Christ. Here they come again.
Well, no, but they're doubling down on it. Finally, Sunday the 18th. It's a fine day, high summer, and this is where the Luftwaffe suddenly are coming over in droves. And yes, Lieutenant Julius Neumann was leading the 6th Staffel of JG-27, escorting 28 Stukas. And he's flying Yellow 6, which is not his usual plane. Normally he's in Yellow 3, but there's something wrong, so he's taken Yellow 6 instead. And because he hasn't got his usual plane, he's forgotten his mascot, which is a mini teddy bear, which his girlfriend had given him.
And they're pounced on by 41 and 601 Squadron, which are Hurricanes.
Yep.
The point is, because the escort isn't being flown effectively, they can't help. So the Hurricanes, again, they cut up the Stukas quite easily, don't they?
Yeah. And then they end up in Spitfires as well.
Yeah.
So Neumann chases after one, gets on the tail and opens fire. Spitfire turns away, and then Neumann follows, weaving ever lower and lower and lower till they're kind of over the Isle of Wight. And eventually he hits the Spitfire, but realises there's 2 lots of smoke. There's a kind of black smoke from the Spitfire, but there's also some white smoke. And then he realises it's his. That obviously he's been hit somewhere along the line. And the engine's struggling. He thinks, well, maybe I probably haven't got any chance of getting over the channel. But then, so he tries to gain height and bail out, but then the engine starts bursting into flames. And he suddenly thinks, yikes, I really do need to get out. So he calls up the group leader and he says, well, where are you? And he says, well, I'm over the Isle of Wight and I'm going to have to come down. So he slides to, he wheels up, crash lands in a field, hits his head, but he's okay. Gets out. Fort is Messerschmitt 109 looks okay, despite still smouldering. So he goes back, gets the flare gun, fires 2 shots into the radio. And then I talked to him many years later about this episode, and he said, I suddenly felt rather lonely. So I took out a cigarette and waited to be taken prisoner, which he was.
Yeah.
He was then picked up by the Home Guard, put on a boat, taken across the Solent, and then put on a train, and he ended up at Victoria Station. And there's a very famous photograph.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
this sort of, blonde haired, he's sort of striding with his boots and his breeches, looking actually really cool.
Looking the part.
Looking the part. And that was him.
This is the last Luftwaffe could do, because the weather then steps in.
Yeah.
So you know, the best laid plans of Hermann Goering, which after all weren't particularly well laid. Not only is it not working, but the weather has a vote, and it shows, doesn't it, that the Dowding system's working, the way that the RAF are able to respond,
and inevitably getting better as people are getting more experienced. I mean, there's nothing like being involved in the middle of it to kind of sort of hone your skills.
Yeah.
And also, Dowding is very effectively rotating his squadrons as well. So he's making sure that not one squadron is having too much time in the absolute firing line.
The summary of this fighting is between the 8th and the 23rd of August. Here's the balance sheet. They've lost 204 aircraft, but more than 300 have been built, and 260 have been repaired. So they're keeping abreast of it. But at the same time, the Luftwaffe have lost 397 aircraft. 181 of those are 109s and 110s. In the whole of August, German aircraft factories have only produced 184 new 109s and 125 110s. So they're falling behind.
Yeah. And for the whole of August, British factories are producing nearly 500 new fighters.
Yeah. So they're winning on the production side.
Well, the RAF is, yeah.
Yeah, the RAF is. And also the pilot...
Emphatically so.
Yeah. So these figures are quite something, aren't they? So they lose 104 guys killed in action.
Fighter command do.
Yeah, in August. Well, the Luftwaffe lose 623.
Killed.
That is quite the balance sheet, isn't it?
Yep. But don't forget, bombers have more than...
Yeah, but and a similar number are being taken prisoner. So these permanent losses is 12 times higher than fighter command.
Yes, and if you've got a material advantage of 2.5 to 1, that's not enough.
Yeah. The fighting will continue, obviously,
Yes.
but this is the direction of travel as we get well into August. Yeah. And I think, I mean, we'll be taking you on in the next episode.
Well, to phase 3, because that's the end of phase 2 of the Battle of Britain.
Yeah.
And now this is the true period of attrition coming up.
Yeah.
It's last week of August, first week of September. That's the critical attritional weeks.
But it's fair to say, at the point where the Luftwaffe imagined it would have the upper hand, it hasn't. It has no such thing. Thanks for watching. If you want all of these episodes in one ad-free, healthy lump, become a Patreon. Go to our We Have Ways of Making You Talk Patreon. Thanks for listening. Tally-ho. Tally-ho.
Cheerio.